Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to GT7 update 1.27, which was released today, December the 15th. Now this will probably be the last kind of content update for I guess 2022 as a whole, and I thought instead of just kind of putting gameplays of the cars up, I thought I'd kind of give you a brief kind of overview of all 5 of the cars that have come with this kind of latest update. Now the Ferrari VGT, which you're seeing here, is actually not available just yet to kind of buy. You get one given to you for free if you answered day 4 of the viewers campaign in the last update for the World Series finale. So let's get into the discussion, and first up, as you can tell, we're going to talk about the Ferrari VGT. Now, as strange and kind of weird as this car actually is for a Ferrari, I must say I was actually pretty excited for this one. Obviously Ferrari never having a VGT car and it being basically in the works and kind of planned since GT6, I was really kind of excited to see it actually drop in the game. And in terms of a kind of performance standpoint and kind of the look of it and the sound of it, it kind of doesn't disappoint. Yes, it's weird, yes, it's different, but I honestly don't mind when in terms of a VGT car, that's kind of how they're meant to be. It's kind of futuristic, but kind of not too out of the possibility of, you know, becoming a real car, like, well, quite a few of them actually have. Now, I don't really ever see this becoming like a real thing or a running thing, at least. Maybe they'll kind of do a proper one-off prototype that'll actually, you know, run and kind of feature as close to the performance as it possibly can. But I don't ever see this becoming kind of a production thing. They may kind of use some of the technology that they've kind of wanted to put in it, maybe in future cars. That's kind of one of the big things about the VGTs, when they become production cars. They're never as extreme as they kind of are made out to be in game. But yeah, like I said, I don't really see it becoming the real thing. But in terms of it actually being in the game, performance-wise, looks-wise, sound-wise, it's a pretty solid job, as you know, as far as VGTs go. Like, it really is a great balance of kind of performance and drivability. It's not to the point where it's so crazy fast that it just stops being controllable and stops being very fun to drive because you feel like you're on edge all the time. In fact, the car's probably the complete opposite. It feels very planted, very grippy, whilst also kind of maintaining its speed. One thing to note on this thing is actually getting used to the brakes. I found them very, very good. You know, the fact that it's got so many gears to get up through, it was just, yeah, absolutely fantastic. My only kind of downside to this car was actually kind of the hybrid system that it uses. Ran out of charge by the end of lap 1 on Monza. At that point, it seems like it was kind of difficult to get the charge back in it. But honestly, that's probably the only gripe to really have with this car. I can't really, you know, complain about it too much. It was a free car for, you know, taking all the 20 seconds of my time. You know, obviously, it was a case of watching the World Finals, but to be honest, it's probably something I would have watched anyway. You know, it was, you know, kind of part of, I guess not necessarily part of what I do in Gran Turismo, but you know, it was just something nice to just watch and kind of see it all unfold. I actually really did enjoy it. So for me, this is just a little bit of a bonus in terms of, you know, getting it for free with the viewers campaign. It does come to the dealer, I believe the 23rd of December, in terms of actually being able to buy it. So that's when it will actually, you know, properly officially drop all the way through the update and kind of mainly in the game. So feel free to keep your eye out on it. Honestly, I think it's a solid addition and a solid VGT car, when most of them are honestly, you know, usually quite disappointing. Next up, we have the Alfa Romeo Giulia GTAm. Now, this honestly is probably down as one of my favourite cars that we've got in Gran Turismo. In all honesty, I absolutely fell in love with this thing as soon as I drove it. Not only am I a bit of an Italian car fanboy, which you can probably tell why I actually like the Ferrari VGT, when some of you may not. Alfa Romeo are just one of those brands. I honestly think this car should have been there at launch, and it was kind of, you know, even in the last update when it was kind of teased cars, and I originally thought that the silhouette could have been the Alfa Romeo, to see it actually then drop just an update later is fantastic. I genuinely cannot complain about this car. It sounds great, it looks great, it's very, very good in terms of its handling. In fact, to be honest, the way you can throw this thing around for a, you know, a performance sedan or whatever you want to call it is, well, very impressive. I honestly really, really like this thing. Like I said, one of my instant favorites in the entirety of GT7, in which the kind of list of cars that are getting better and better is growing, you know, each update. This one really does stand out. I honestly fully must admit that you need to, you know, get this car. Obviously, I'll have my full reviews for all these cars, but I genuinely don't have a bad thing to say about this car. Overall, its performance, the looks, the feel of it just really do add up to probably one of the more complete packages in GT7. It really does not have a downside in my opinion. It's so fun to kind of get it sideways through, or if you kind of want to drive it sensibly and go full grip, well, you can do that too. I just absolutely love this car, and I can see why myself and so many of us were kind of excited for this coming to the game, and it honestly didn't disappoint, and I think that's the best thing about it. You know, you kind of know a car's coming from like data mines and stuff, and you kind of get yourself hyped up to only, you know, jump in it and it be actually, well, quite disappointing, to be honest, in terms of the way it drives and feels, and you know, just how good it actually feels. I don't think I've felt this kind of comfortable just jumping straight into a car since the likes of the Cayman GT4 that got added plenty of updates ago now. It is honestly just that good, and I had a lot of good things to say about that Cayman, and I feel like, you know, in terms of instant approval for this car, straight there. Honestly, brilliant machine, brilliant looking car, and I honestly must give props to Alfa Romeo for the design of this car. Like, this is a full-blown version of this car, and honestly, nothing really looks out of place. Sometimes with performance versions, things just kind of look strange, especially when you start adding things to kind of sedan looking cars, and really, well, I can't complain. Even the spoiler, which may have looked kind of ridiculous, and the diffuser and such, really doesn't look out of place on it. So solid car, solid addition. Honestly, one of my instant favourites in the entirety of GT7. You need to give this one a go. Next up, finally it's in the game, so I can hear the end of the comments until people start asking for the C5 and the C8R or whatever it's called, and the ZR1 versions or Z06, whatever you want to call them. Yes, the Corvette C8 is finally in GT7, and it's very much overdue, and I will fully admit that. You know, look, at the end of the day, I'm happy to see it in the game. I cannot really say that I'm overly excited about the way it drives. I guess initially, you know, it's not disappointing, but it just doesn't feel really that good. I was finding myself really struggling to get to grips with it, not in terms of kind of the way it handles, but mainly kind of trying to get it to slow down. It feels quite heavy, quite bulky, quite weighty, and whilst that's probably just an in-game thing, you know, yeah, it was just a bit strange to get used to. I think I expected just a bit more performance from it. It felt quite, you know, bulky to throw around. It would then try and get sideways, or it'd just sort of lock up its brakes. It was just, yeah, pretty strange, but overall, I honestly cannot really complain. It's still a solid car. Don't let that take away from anything, because overall, it's a very nice looking car. It has plenty of kind of customization options in terms of actually, you know, getting a good build out of this. I could see some pretty crazy builds coming from the C8, in all honesty. And again, it's a more modern car. It kind of updates the car roster, which is kind of the main reason I'm glad it's in, because it shows that we're finally getting some more up-to-date models. Obviously, we've had the C7 in the game for the longest time, with the C8 just kind of being held back. So to see it finally enter the game is just a huge plus. Overall, a good car, just might take a bit of getting used to, or again, it could possibly just be me. I will be doing builds on this car. I feel like there's a lot of potential to be squeezed out of the C8 Stingray. So now let's move on to a bit of a classic one. This is the Toyota Celica GT4 ST205 rally car in its Castrol livery. Honestly, in terms of being an iconic rally car, it's, yeah, up there, in all honesty. It's brilliant. A weird thing to note is it actually comes in its tarmac form. It doesn't come on dirt tyres or as a proper rally car. It comes in its kind of tarmac form with kind of road tyres on it. You know what I mean. So yeah, it doesn't actually feature dirt tyres. You actually have to put them on. In terms of being a, you know, decent rally car and such, it's great. You know, I didn't expect it to be the most powerful thing. In fact, it feels really, really underpowered, to be quite honest, when you first jump into it. But then again, it's not built to the same specs as the likes of, you know, the Group B rally cars, which were just absolutely insane at the time and still even today hold up. And it's not as modern as some of the other rally cars that we do have in the game. So it's a nice little middle ground, to be honest. I do see some crazy rally builds coming out of this. You know, strap a turbo to this and it's probably one of the best cars in the game, just for being crazy. I absolutely love it. So yeah, solid addition, an absolute legend, and great to see that Castrol livery return whilst on a Toyota. And the final one, the Bugatti Chiron. Now, it's a bit of a weird one, this. Typical Bugatti, very heavy, very, very fast, handles like a tank. Brakes, in all honesty, are terrible, you know, for getting it slowed down from the speed you're going to be hitting. But still, very, very fun, actually. I found myself, even though it was really not that great in terms of its performance or its handling, overall found myself having a lot of fun, just kind of throwing it around. Even if I was making mistakes left, right and centre, it was just a really enjoyable car to use, in all honesty. It is so fast in a straight line. It really does just kind of take off. It's, you know, pretty incredible for a production car. So it really does serve its need, and in all honesty, that means this whole update we've not had a single bad car released. All 5 of them are brilliant. We've got a legendary car return. We've got the, you know, ridiculous production car of the Bugatti Chiron. We have the brand new C8, which updates the car roster and obviously brings the most up-to-date model of Corvette into the game. We obviously have the likes of the Ferrari VGT, which is just not a bad VGT, which is a plus point in all honesty, especially after the likes of, you know, the Porsche Spider, which was terrible, to be quite honest. And then we have the all-around pretty much perfect Alfa Romeo Giulia GTAm. Honestly, overall, my basic first kind of impressions and overview after using these cars, fantastic. Go and pick them all up. I have my all my reviews out pretty soon. Thank you so much for the support recently. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications on so you don't miss an upload from me. I upload every day and I'll be covering everything from update 1.27, and I'll catch you all later on. Take care, guys. Peace.